Hi everybody, welcome back to Garage Studio Modelers. I'm Dave Forrest. With me here is Harvey Lowe.
Harvey Lowe, hi there.
And in today's episode, we're going to continue on the BT7 here. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to focus on doing horizontal surfaces. Now I know I talked a little bit about this in the last episode, but as I was working on this and kind of trying to get ready for today's shoot, I kind of realized that horizontal surfaces for me have always been a bit of a challenge. It's easy to do the vertical surfaces with the streaking and whatnot, and the mud on the side of the hulls, the road wheels and whatnot. But when it comes to, but you have to also pay attention to the horizontal, like the flat horizontal surfaces on the model, because if you just worry about the vertical and don't address the horizontal, it's going to look off. It's not going to be incorporated, and it's not going to be as good or as nice. So I thought it would be worthwhile spending time on just focusing on that, and we're going to use a variety of products. We're going to continue using some of the enamel streaking products that we used on a previous episode. Maybe some oils, and again, I really like these oil brusher products. They're uber convenient, and also an area that's getting a lot of interest are these pencils, which we're going to continue to use as well, which I'm also a big fan of. And then show you how to incorporate pigments and whatnot. So I think that'll be the focus of today's episode. And then after that, I think there's really just one more just to finish off maybe some of the machine gun barrels, the exhaust. We still have to do the tracks. I have full tracks for this. We'll dip them into that solution and weather them. But I think we're very close to the end here. So we'll today's episode is horizontal surfaces. Horizontal surfaces.
On the horizontal surfaces, I find that it depends on the subject matter, right, Dave? So if you've got an aircraft, you can actually streak the wings, right? Because that's where the air is coming.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's those areas where there is not that airflow.
Yeah. Because it's like rain coming down. It's flat vertical, right? Aircraft is a little bit different. Aircraft that's a different.
It's a different. We'll do some stuff on.
Yeah. Well, and we kind of talked a little bit about this before we were getting on camera here. Is I think we're going to broaden, and we talked about this earlier, but we definitely are very interested in broadening the type of subjects that we do, where we want to do aircraft. Harvey had a nice introduction with his to sci-fi with his Millennium Falcon, but there's a lot of techniques that I think are applicable to different subjects and whatnot. So I think we're going to continue on that. I'm not the best aircraft modeler around. There's lots of other guys out there that are way better, but we'll kind of figure it out and go through it. I mean, Harvey has has done some really nice aircraft in the past, so hopefully with his help and help from some other from very talented modelers in the community here, we'll kind of get
I'm even doing a Gundam model, Dave. A Gundam model.
Yeah.
And do you remember yesterday we went to a shop in Toronto, Canada. That's Toronto, Canada. And it's a Gundam store in Toronto. And we were talking to them. They have never done military modeling, and I want to try Gundam. So I think the techniques that you guys see on this, just realize I think they cross over.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I wouldn't mind doing a Gundam at one point as well, right? I mean, they're kind of neat subjects, and they're very. You can apply a lot of the armor modeling techniques to guns to weather them up to make them look gritty and whatnot. I think that's something that that genre is getting into as well over the last few years, right?
They said that too. I was in Tokyo Odaiba looking at some of their masters, and you can see that weathering. The other area that I think we should get into, and maybe we can get some guests, it's certainly not my area, is automotive.
Yeah.
Right? I'd love to learn. Maybe we'll do a session on how to do gloss finishes.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn, and I think as we've talked about this, right? As you do different types of, like as you do ships, you're going to learn something that can help you with armor and vice versa and aircraft. So I think the more different subjects you do, the better a modeler you become, the more comfortable you become with things.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Dave.
Yeah. So we'll kind of get into it and start attacking them horizontal surfaces. Okay, so let's talk about what I've done since we got together last. So a couple of things. I started to paint the tools and the jack block on the back here, and for that I always like to use the Vallejo acrylics. So this is the whether it's Panzer Aces or their model color series. I find using these acrylics for coverage for hand painting, brush painting stuff, details on vehicles is the best way to go. And a bit of a tip of using these, I find I always add a couple of things. So I always add a little bit of this ultra matte varnish, and what this does is this just ensures that it dries dead flat. sometimes these paints can have a bit of a glossy sheen to them, left to their own devices. And then as a retarder and to improve flow, I add just a drop of this airbrush flow improver that I got. But you can use any retarder. Any acrylic retarder will work.
Dave, can you use the Tamiya retarder on those? Have you tried that?
That I haven't tried. I don't know if because these aren't they're the same. It's a vinyl acrylic. I'd be. I mean, we could try it.
We'll try it on another episode.
Yeah, we'll experiment. We like doing that here. But I find this this kind of trifecta of paint, airbrush flow improver, and matte varnish, kind of give a superior, consistent result. So what I'll do, and I don't know if I'll probably say this for the last episode, is we'll kind of over the wood grain here, or over the wood parts here, we'll simulate wood grain using oil paints. And then we'll put some graphite or some metallic pigments on the shovel ends, and maybe some dirt on them too, to show that they were used as well. But we'll probably do that in the last episode. But I think what I do want to talk about today is, so on this side of the vehicle, for this part here, I've weathered completed the horizontal surface weathering. So here you've got fuel tanks, square things or fuel tanks on the side of the vehicle here. So what I've done is I've incorporated some fuel spills here. I'll show you how to do that on the other side. And then I've also incorporated some of the weathering here on this fender. And we'll look at probably extending it to this side, but I'll carry it on this side here, and maybe we'll do some of the horizontal surfaces up here on the main hull, and also on the turret. You can't forget about the turret. And what I used here, so maybe we can start getting right into it. So let's do the oil stains. So what I like to use for oil is you can get, and this is just one of different variations you can get from either MIG or AK. So this is engine, fuel, and oil. So this is really just a glossy kind of enamel product. And I always like to thin these down a bit. So if I get my palette out, I'll get, again, odorless thinner. Love this stuff. And I'll just get a few drops out. Just kind of, that's all you need for what we're going to be doing here.
Yeah, I like that stuff as well, Dave. While I use the Humbrol stuff, it does have an odor to it. I find that they have slightly different qualities.
Yeah, the odorless thinner I find just less harsh.
Yeah,
it's
yes,
exactly.
exactly.
Safer to use.
Yeah, the Humbrol is a lot tougher, a lot more smellier. Yeah.
So all this really is really just, I think it's just some type of gloss medium with color pigment suspended in it. And in past episodes, I've replicated this using oil paints and a gloss finish. So you can use the stuff out of the bottle, which it's a convenience thing, or you can make your own. That's what I guess is the point I'm trying to make. So what I'll do here is I'll kind of get a slightly thinner mix, and just kind of do a bit of a wash around the fuel cap. And let's do the other one as well. So I'm assuming that whenever these guys would fill up, there would always be a bit of a mess. They're not very tidy. And then you just kind of work it out a bit. And you can see here there's some channels to work with that might kind of act as a bit of a barrier. So we'll go heavy on this one, maybe not so heavy on this one. And then what I might do is I might go pick up and get a slightly thicker mix, and then just kind of add that closer to the fuel cap here. Now, this will dry very glossy, which is what you want. And we'll come back to this. but you don't want to, at least I think, my preference is I don't leave it like that. So if you notice, let's go back to the finished sides. So what I did is I kind of feathered out the gloss effect with just a brush moistened with odorless thinner. And the reason for that is just to kind of diffuse or blend the effect. So if I'm just going to load a brush up here with some odorless thinner and then unload it on paper. Again, you want it fairly dry. And then so to create that same kind of gradual effect, I'm just gonna start stippling around the edges here. So that should blend it a bit. And again, you know, the nice thing about this is if you don't like something, you can certainly remove it.
Dave, are you going to use another fuel oil staining, or are you going to stick to this one product for this model?
I'm going to stick to this one product for this model. And there's Wilder has some nice, like they have like a diesel, which is kind of like a dark blue. But again, you can make your own. I think you can use anything that you see here. You can replicate using oil paints, a gloss medium. Like they're murky. Like the Adam Wilder murky water is one of my favorite. The only problem though is it doesn't. I hate to say it though, but the Wilder products don't seem to have, some of them are fine, but some of them, for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's initial batch or what, but just don't seem to have a very long shelf life. Yeah. So all I have to say is you can recreate. You can use. You know, as long as it's like an enamel-based gloss medium with some oil paints, and you can thin the consistency with the odorless thinner, you can kind of make whatever color you want.
Maybe in another episode, I like using Tamiya. You know, they've got that clear orange. Use that with an earth color. It's got, you know, how some oil's got that little bit of color in it, and it works well for me. Maybe another episode.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
There's different ways. There's always different ways to. So I'll just kind of work that out. And then the important thing to do too, and this will be a consistent theme here, is so for the parts of the vehicle that have been heavily weathered, really the key tone here is derived from the pigment, right? So we put that mud base on there to give it a bit of texture and something to bite to and a layer of color. We've put some pigment over that. To kind of simulate drying mud. And then we've used some oil paint, dark brown oil paint, to kind of stain to show some wet areas and give some tonal variation. But the key tone here is the pigment. And you want to work that into your horizontal surface weathering. So as I did here, you can see I've just kind of stippled some pigment onto the tops of the fuel tanks here. So you want to do that over here as well. And you're just using very little pigment. And again, you're just kind of stippling it in. And it's maybe kind of hard to. If that lighting helps. There you go. I think you can probably see it pretty good there. And then what I'm doing is I'm just taking the short, stubby brush here and dipping it into the pigment, getting most of it off, and you just have to give. The nice thing about this is because again, as you move up the vehicle, there's gonna be less and less weathering and whatnot on it.
But you're going light, right?
Yeah.
Less is best kind of.
Yeah. They just want like mud won't get caked on here the way it does in the lower hull. But you just gotta work this in. Again, this is just to kind of incorporate. And then what I'll do is I'll take a soft dry brush and just kind of, there you go, just blend it a bit. Just soften the effect. So we'll let this dry and just see what the effect is of the gloss engine and oil grease, or engine and fuel product. Close that up. Don't want to knock this over. And then, so while we're waiting for that to dry, let's go and attack let's focus on this section here. And what I did on the other side, so it's the same type of thing. I'm gonna, but instead of using, I'm gonna go back and go back to the same two. And again, there's different ways you can get there. There's different things you can do. But a way to help ensure consistency is I use these two. I use these two streaking products, one from AK, one from MiG, rain marks and streaking grind per Panzer Gray, to create the vertical surface streaks on the turret and the sides of the hull and whatnot. And I'm going to incorporate these same two colors onto this horizontal surface here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake these up. Shake them both up. And we'll start with the dark brown, which is going to be the predominant color. And I'm just going to pick up some of the thin brush, and I'm just going to start painting in the corners here. So I'm just applying this very rough. Just around where stuff would accumulate. And maybe just draw it a little bit there and then pick up on this. So you've got, and again, you've got, you know, you can use some of the natural boundaries on the vehicle. And it doesn't have to be terribly neat. And then maybe, and again, if you get it somewhere it shouldn't be, you can just pull it off with a clean brush. Like that. That's enough, I think. And put that to one side, clean that off. And then we'll go in with the rain marks. And this is really just meant to simulate like a light colored dust. And you can use, I mean, if I wanted to use oil paints, like I could use like this buff color is very similar to the oil. So I could just put oil paint in there, but different ways to get to the same result. And I'll just work some of this and just very randomly. And all this is just to help kind of diffuse the brown a bit, the dark brown. So I'm just kind of putting it very random. Maybe just pick up a little bit more. Oh, that was a bit much, but anyway, no big deal. Close that up. Again, always close up your bottles if you're not using them. The other night I was working on my Panzer 38T, so that's the next build we'll do, which will be an out of the box build. It's the new Tamiya kit, and I was using the MiG super thin cement, which I love, and I knocked the bottle over and spilled half of it on my bench, which is a pain. So always close your stuff up. And then, so we'll let that, I mean, you can let that dry for a minute or so. But you can start, I mean, it dries pretty quick, and you can start, again, with the same, and it's the same thing. It's like a very slightly moistened brush. And just start stippling it in, just working it in. And all you're looking to do here is just to diffuse that effect. I'm just going to move it around. Just clean your brush every now and again. Easy peasy. So here we got a little bit more of the dust of the rain mark, and that's fine. You kind of work with accidents as they happen. So why are we? What's some of the logic behind this? I think if you look at, we did streaking on the side here, which I did off camera, but it's the same thing that we did that I showed you on the side of the turret. We're using the same two colors, and you're just putting streaks in, and you're kind of working it in. So the logic is that as stuff would streak down the side of the vehicle, it would start to accumulate near near this vertical surface in the corner here. So that's why we're focusing the color in there. Again, if you don't like something, you can just take it off with, you might want to clean up this middle area here. Just use a little bit more thinner, move it around. But that's starting to look like a pretty good effect. And all you're really trying to do here is just blend it and not have, you know, too much of a buildup of color. I think that looks pretty good. Now, going to help the drying process on a little bit there. And again, you go back to your pigments. Now, you don't have to. You could kind of leave, I think looks a pretty nice effect, but let's add, because again, dust would come up and settle on your horizontal surfaces, so let's just work in, and again, very little, just the same as we did kind of on these fuel things here. All it does, it just has to give a hint of the color. That's all you have to do here. And all I'm doing is I'm just kind of, in a very random way. Let me just blow the excess off here. And there you have it. I think we're done with that. Maybe just add a little bit more. It's still a little bit wet, so it's going to be a little bit darker. But there. So now you've got some consistency. And if we look at kind of, let's go back and look at these fuel spills. So here, I think you've got a nice diffused effect of the gloss, where it's not, like there isn't a harsh demarcation point between the gloss and the kind of the eggshell finish of the underlying. So I think we've kind of achieved there.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point, Dave. Using gloss on a model, you have to be very careful, because if judges see it, they might mistake it.
Yeah, that's a glue mark.
Glue mark. Glue mark.
You're toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to blend it in.
You got to blend it in. So let's go back. So we're going to do, I'm just going to, again, repeat this. We'll do this section in there. And it's, oops, I picked up the wrong product. So you can use the same two streaking grime for Panzer Gray, which is kind of the dark brown color that we had. So again, the same. And just kind of trace out. And maybe towards the front of the vehicle, you might get a little bit more, might be a little bit more color. Like so. Again, very, very rough. And then we'll go back and again clean the brush. I just add a little bit of the rain marks. Again, just to give some color variety. That's all you have to do. Give that a minute or so to dry up. Now, while we're waiting for that to dry, well, actually, let's not wait for it to dry. And there we go, just start. Start doing the same thing, just start working this in. Again, you can, just like, you can use oils, you can use whatever you have handy. going to do is I'm just going to remove some of that from the middle. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. And then just, again, go back to your pigments, pick up just a little bit, and just start working that in. And if you get some, like I got, now we still have to address what we're going to do with these fenders, but if you get a little bit on, like there's a little bit that's spilled over, you can just take some, remove it with a brush. Easy peasy. Done. I mean, we can see here, this section's dried, so I'm just gonna work in the pigment, just blend it a little bit more. So that looks good. That's kind of the effect we wanted. I think we're good here on these fuel tanks. We're good in here. Now I think let's maybe move up the vehicle. And for that, let's go to the pencils. Okay, so pencils. So we did some of this in the last episode on the turret, but I think it's worth spending a little bit more time with these, and this will be I think more of a common theme with us going forward, because I've really come to like using these pencils, and they've been on the market for a little less, maybe 8 months now, I guess. I think they first came out. They kind of were announced in March of 2019 or February of 2019, if memory serves. I finally got my hands on them in May, I think, April or May, and I've been kind of using them ever since. And I find them a very versatile, easy to use product. The nice thing about this is that it's all water based, so all you need is just a little bit of water. And again, it's important to put in just a bit of soap, dish soap, and the reason why I do that is just to break up the surface tension of the water, so it just flows easier. So here we have just a cup of warm water with just a drop of dish soap. You just need enough to, again, break up the surface tension. And what I'll do is I'll dip the pencil into the water. Maybe I'll get that out of the way so that people can see. And on a non-porous surface, I'll just kind of work out some color. So right now I'm using the smoke color, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be kind of adding some interest around these caps. And I'm not sure what these armored caps are for. I guess they're access hatches for fuel or oil or something, but they'd be open and closed. So let's create some demarcation. So what I'll do is I'll just create some color on the palette, and with a fine brush and just a little bit of water, I'll pick up some of that color. And you could apply it right to the model with the wet pencil, but I just find this a little bit more precise. And they're kind of like an oil paint. So what I'll do is the same type of thing. I'll just kind of trace around, just making sure I get color around this. And in here. And then what I'll do with another brush, I was kind of using this for, you should really have separate brushes, but I wasn't smart enough to bring enough with me. So with it's the same principle, with a slightly moistened brush, this time with water, you're just going to work at diffusing. The effect. And again, until you cover this with something, you can reactivate it at any time with just a wet brush. So let's go and do the other side. So why did I use smoke? Yeah, I think a dark gray, like the smoke here is kind of a dark gray, almost a black color. You could use pure black. Let's use pure black on the other side.
Dave, when did these pencils come on the market?
Oh, about 9 months ago, I guess.
Yeah, pretty.
So back like
yeah.
kind of Q1.
Yeah.
Q2
I've seen
of
there's a
2019.
few more videos on how to use them, but I think there's a lot of opportunity here to push the limits on these things.
They're just like oil. They're like
Yeah.
water soluble oil paints.
Yeah, if you haven't used them, they're really great. They're unlike the typical Prismacolor pencil crayons. The consistency almost has a bit of an oil consistency in the lead there. It's because it's not lead, right? It's
it's
something else.
some type of water soluble. They've been around. Artists have been using them forever, and you can get them like.
But I've tried all the old pencil crayons, and they're okay, but they're nowhere near as versatile as these for modelers.
No, these are different.
Yeah,
these are very different. So here I'm using the black. I used kind of a smoke color here, which is kind of really like a dark gray. This is the black. Which again, normally you wouldn't use pure black. That's kind of a no-no. But because we're going to diffuse the hell out of it.
And just for our South African friends, we use the phrase "blek." Did I get that right? Blek?
Blik.
Blek?
Yeah, blik. So we'll put a little bit of this here and just work it out.
Yeah, it's true. I find that sometimes pure black does have a use for it. If you want that contrast.
Yeah, and see, just very, very quickly you can get a nice effect. And the nice thing about this is that it'll set, but you can always reactivate it. As long as you don't put anything on top of this.
Are you aiming for a chipping thing?
Effect?
No.
No, this is just to simulate accumulated grime around these things. Oops, as they would be open and closed. I don't know if I'd use these for chipping.
Have you tried to use them dry for chipping?
Yes. Yes, I have. I know that's something you do, Harv. I've never...
I do find for chipping, you need almost like a harder... So the Prismacolors for me still work for that. These are good as well, but you can still keep the... I find that there's an old black gray color from Prismacolor pencils that you get in art stores. You still use those for chipping.
Yeah, I've never had much success with the pencils for chipping, and I'm probably doing it wrong, but I don't know. I just find I find chipping. I've kind of fallen out of favor with chipping.
Yeah. While you're doing that, let's talk about that for a moment. I find that as well. Even if you see like a lot of modern vehicles, maybe it's the paint that they use, but there's not a lot of chipping even around the hatches. I know it's an art form, but I've kind of toned that down too.
Yeah, I haven't done any chipping on this really.
Yeah.
The last few builds, I haven't done any chipping.
Yeah, I find if you do chipping on one area, it's almost as if you have to do it all over. Is that kind of for you as well?
Yeah, I might. Yeah, or you might do it very. And again, I was working in some pigment here just to kind of keep that finish consistent. But like a grab handle or something. That you might want to chip it a little bit.
But again, guys, we're not saying that chipping is not a great technique. It is, but it's personal preference.
Yeah, it can be a little bit overused. So I'm just softening here just like we did on the other, just softening the effect of the pigment. Now I'm not going to fix this. Again, because if I fix this, then I risk losing everything I've done here, and if I fix it, you're going to lose a lot of the pigment, and you're not, with the turret on this, you're not going to see too much of this anyways. But there. So now we've got some nice weathering and kind of grime build up around these hatches here. So we can kind of do the same thing. Maybe attack this one back here. And again, so you can see on the palette here, these colors have dried up. So, but I can just, with a little bit of water, I can just reactivate them. So this is the smoke. So I'll go back and forth between the smoke and the, which is the dark gray and the black. And then the same type of thing. This is a little bit hard to see here, but same type of thing. And just to create some interest around that. They're like oils.
Yeah, they are. They are kind of have that consistency.
Yeah, like a convenient. And then we'll kind of work in a little bit.
There's a nice color range for them too.
Yeah. I mean, there's every color you'd want almost. There's too many colors.
Yeah. Have you tried the metallics?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I haven't either yet.
I know we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
We should try. Oh, by the way, when we went out yesterday, I picked up those AK Extreme.
Oh. Okay.
And
are those lacquer based?
Those are lacquer based, and I think they're enamel.
Oh, do they have their own thinner?
They have their own thinner, but you don't need them. They come pre-thin. They're like alkali.
Yeah.
They come pre-thin, but they're amazing.
Oh, you've tried it already?
Yeah. I sprayed it on a.
Oh.
I'm working on this Star Wars droid.
Now, are they durable? Because with the old all-clad stuff.
Yeah, they are.
They are, right?
Like I was at my bench and I was spraying it, and so they have so I bought, what did I buy? I bought like a steel color and a chrome.
Perhaps we should do a GSM episode just on metallic paints.
Yeah.
There's so many out there.
Yeah, like
right.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
Like I was literally at my bench going, wow, like this is
Really?
like the chrome is it's like chrome. Like you can actually almost see a reflection in it, and it's durable. And I sprayed it on the plastic, and it's on that. And sorry, we're kind of digressing from this here, but
that's why we do things live here.
Yeah,
On GSM.
but it's straight on the plastic, and it's that Banda. It's that shiny, kind of glossy plastic, that brittle plastic, and it just coated it. I didn't put a primer or anything on it, and it was So we'll definitely have to do another episode on those metallics. But I was really impressed. So.
I had that moment once, way back when I was about to propose to my wife. I had the fantastic technique. I said, wait, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then things come first, right? So,
Poor
our
Shirley.
priorities.
Poor Shirley. Should give that woman a sainthood. I think I'd put up with you.
We'll do another episode on supportive wives in the hobby and spouses and partners in the hobby.
How to sneak your models into the house.
I've had that. I've had a few guys go, "Hey, Harvey, keep this model for me, will you?" And I have to tell my wife, "That's not mine."
Yeah, this is for Harvey. Yeah, it's not mine, Caroline.
Yeah, it's not mine.
It's for Bill.
Yep.
It's Jerry's. It's not mine. Sandy's model. Yeah, I think our significant others have been very supportive.
Yeah. For
So,
those of you who don't know, we do this filming in Garage Studio Mall. It's very early, typically on a Sunday morning, so we have the days with our families.
yeah, this is. We used to do them early at the store, but that was really just because of the store would open at 11.
Right.
So we'd want to get some filming in before things opened up, because you couldn't film while the store was open. There's just too much noise. So I'm not sure why we're killing ourselves early Sunday mornings for this, but the nice thing is you do have the rest of your day to do whatever. I don't mind getting up early for this.
Yeah.
It's funny, no problems getting up early for this, or to go to a show, or to get together with the guys to go to like a bunch of stores or whatnot, but if I have to get up for work,
Yep. That's true.
It's terrible.
That's true. Now, how long would you spend doing this stage, Dave, from start to finish? How long would you
This is probably the longest.
Really? A day,
for me,
2 days,
yeah. Well,
longer?
I think I probably spend maybe 4 to 6 hours on this, just because you just want to pay it. Like, there's so much to pay attention to here.
But again, you got to know when to stop, right?
Yes. Yeah. And for me, it's not a very prescribed process. It's very. Sorry, we were talking about a lot of other stuff while I was working here. But what I did is I just went around all of these caps, these armored covers, and just created a little bit of, just some grime accumulation under them. And now what I'm going to do is let's start paying attention to, maybe we'll start creating some interest, some dirt. So what I'm going to do is this is my favorite color in the range, this earth brown. So it's like a dark brown. And it's the color I've used the most, and here, so I've wet the tip of the pencil, and so here I'm just going to start applying. Let's do this. Let's just do this area here. So all I'm trying to do here is just to create a little bit of visual interest, and you don't need a lot. So let's do this little section here like that. And it's the same process. It's rinse and repeat here, right? You're just taking a brush, slightly moistened, and just kind of working this in. Yeah, but those AK Extreme paints, wow. That chrome just sings. I'll have to try that. I'll have to try them on an aircraft.
Yeah. I hear some guys use metallics on aircraft, and then they apply the hairspray technique for the chipping, right? Because you've started with that bare metal base.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit. I don't know. I think the chipping on aircraft. If I'm chipping tanks less, I'm chipping aircraft even less.
Yeah. I think the only time where I've seen beat up is like Southwest Pacific, Corsairs on Guadalcanal, Zeros on Buna. They got beat up pretty much.
Zeros never got that weather.
Especially that Pearl. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. You looked at some of those pictures of those Marine Corps Corsairs on Guadalcanal.
Yeah,
like the initial birdcage ones, and they're just all of them actually just beaten to crap.
Yeah, I was up at Canadian Forces Base where I managed to have a look at the. They're dirty. They're really dirty when you get up close.
Yeah, it's because it takes a lot to maintain them.
It does.
So you do and you think about, like, going back to the Guadalcanal. You think about the situation at the time, and they're just trying to get these airplanes airworthy.
Yeah, they're not worried about what they look like.
Yeah. So here I'm just getting back to this. I know there's a lot of banter today, but here I'm just kind of working in just to create very subtle. So the reason why I like the earth brown is just because it's like a dark brown color, and it's good for just creating some tonal variations, some shadows.
So you're really spreading the pencil
around.
Yeah.
Just to, like, I always struggle with, like, how much do you do on the horizontal surfaces? Yeah. It's like the vertical stuff is easy in my mind, but or a little bit more straightforward, I guess. Now you can do the same thing with oil paints too. If you're more comfortable with oils, by all means.
I've had better luck with oils, but I must admit these pencils have something in them that I do like the consistency.
Well, yeah, I just find they're water cleanup.
Yeah. And again, not to say that there's anything wrong with water base. Just a preference.
Well, and they're no more than $2 a pencil.
Yeah, and they don't smell.
Yeah. And you can reactivate, like, oils will, at some point in time, maybe you have a long working time, but they will set up, and then once they set up, you're done. You can't, these will. So again, so if you look at the difference between this side and this side here, just to give just a little bit of something, just to show that we've paid some attention to this upper surface here. So that's all you need to do. Just a hint of something, and then again, take just a little bit of pigment and just kind of work it in. Like so, because that's what it's the dust and stuff that would just come up and accumulate and settle, right? That's what you're doing here. So it's almost as if you're using the earth brown here to create like a dark shadow color, and then you're creating that kind of 3D effect with. And while I'm doing it, I'm just blending in the. And it's important to use a dry brush. We haven't moistened this with anything. Just to soften that effect. There you go. Done. So this is what you just carry this across the top of the vehicle here. We kind of did it in I think a previous episode up here, but we'll do that around the rest of the vehicle. Maybe let's do the other side just for while we're together here. Same, and sorry, I'll continue along here. Maybe create some interest around this latch. And here I'm just kind of drawing with a slightly moistened tip. We'll just create some shadow effect. It's almost as if you're kind of doing almost like a wash, I guess. Maybe.
Just a note, guys, that you can buy these pencils individually and sets.
Yeah. Yeah, we went all in and got the sets.
Yeah.
So thanks to John Banani out of Pittsburgh got those for us. So thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
But yeah, so and then what we'll do is we'll just feather that out. That's a little bit more than I put on. But again, if you don't, if there's too much, you can pull it off with water. So the same, we'll just kind of work at diffusing this out. So it's just what looks right to you. Like again, I don't know about you folks, but I've always struggled a little bit with, how much do you do? And it's kind of, again, you gotta, it's not the exact same colors. Like you could do the same thing we did here. You could use the, if you wanted to make sure you were consistent in your colors, you can use the same streaking products that we use on the other surfaces. But just the purpose of this is really just to show how you can use different products, and you can as long as you stay within kind of the same color range. And just kind of work it in. A little bit more here than we want, but again, you can pull it off. I love this color. This earth brown is the one to get. Sepia is another nice color too in the range, which is another dark brown. But I have all of them, but I keep going back to this one. There we go. So just keep working that in, just making the effect very gradual until it looks right here. And again, you can let this dry, take a break, come back to it, and just reactivate it with the moist brush. Again, as long as you don't cover it with any, and by covering it, I mean, like let's say I wanted to put in, I came in with some oil paints or some enamel products. At that point, I think everything's probably sealed. Now, I haven't tried, but I imagine it would be. But until I do this with anything else, until I come after this with any other type of product, oil, enamel, or otherwise, or again, I'm not a big believer in putting a protective coat. There we go. And you're just kind of creating some interest. So you can do this with any color. Like if you're working on like, let's say, a white UN tank, you can use different colors of beiges and off-whites and browns and maybe even some blues if you wanted to create like kind of a cold. You can use you can use these as a filter even. I just find I really like these. I really like these products. Here I got a little bit more water on this because I'm trying to pull off. There we go. So, yeah, when these first came out, I was like, these things are gimmicky. Why would anybody... What's AK up to now? They're just trying to get us to spend more money on stuff we don't really need. And again, you don't. You can. I mean, if you're comfortable with oils, stick with oils. I showed you can use the enamel streaking products as well. But it's just another tool in your weapon in your repertoire you can use.
That was my reaction too, Dave. But yeah, I bought them and I love them.
Yeah, I'm a model product junkie, I have to admit.
I think they're the only ones out now, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, artists have been using this. So if you know what to look for in an art store, I'm sure that you can get these pencils. Like AK didn't invent these. I mean, I think they invented a more convenient form of them for the modeler.
Right, and different color palettes.
Yeah, but you can get these things have been around for a while. And I find this very therapeutic. I love, for me, this is my favorite stage of the model, is just doing this type of stuff too, because that's where it really just starts to come to life. Like as soon as you start applying a wash to it. Like the modulation's nice and all, but this is really where it starts to sing. And I could do this all day. Okay. Just a nice Sunday morning with a couple of good friends working on your model. Here we go. I think that looks... And again, I can let this dry, go have a cup of coffee, come back, decide if I'm happy with it. If I am, great. If not, just re-wet it, come back to it. There you have it. Easy peasy. Yeah, so again, if you're more comfortable with oils or enamels, continue using those. Just want to show some different ways of doing this. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today's episode. So we'll finish doing, addressing the rest of the work. There's not a lot left to do on this. I think we're pretty close. And then we'll do this. We'll do the same. We kind of ignored the turret today, but we'll do the same thing on the turret. I'll probably continue to use this earth brown and do the same thing around here just to create some areas of interest and work in. Don't forget to work in the pigment. And then I think the last episode we'll look at doing we'll finish off the exhausts. And we'll talk a little bit more about the shovels here and the jack block. I may paint, I think these are jacks, I may paint these a different color. I may paint these like a dark gray or a black. I haven't decided yet. And then we'll address the track. So I think one more meaty episode, and I think we're good to go. So yeah, so that's it for today's episode. Thanks everybody for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much.